And we bring in NFL analyst Albert Lanier. Albert, given the injury to Bo Nix, how dramatically does this change Denver's ceiling heading into the AFC Championship game against a talented New England team and Drake May?
Well, that has to be, before I go into that, when you look at that game between the Bills and the Broncos and you look at how that came down, I can't recall a single game that I've seen over the years in the NFL. Before I got into analysis here, I was just watching like everyone else is out there or listening as everyone else is out there. As a fan of my teams and watching football, I don't think I've ever seen a situation like that. So, in terms of how it impacts the Broncos, first of all, you have was Jared Stidham, who is going to be taking over the QB1 position. This is a guy I don't believe he's played since 2023. And the stats that I saw, I think he had 6 touchdowns to 5 interceptions when he did play. And this is about as unprecedented as I recall. I mean, I don't know that I've seen a backup come into a AFC championship or NFC championship having not played. I don't even think he's taken too many snaps, probably in practice. But a guy having not played and having to be the person that will have to lead the Denver Broncos possibly to a Super Bowl. There have been backups who have ended up going to Super Bowls, like Jeff Hostetler with the Giants. Tom Brady.
Right.
It was a backup.
Yeah. Trent Dilfer.
Yeah. But you have to understand, these are people that were backups that came in to
middle of the season, right?
During the season, correct. So they had a few games. This guy has nothing that I know of. So he's coming in cold as ice. And not in the Caleb Williams way. I'm talking really cold. I'm talking ice cold. I'm talking Antarctica type of cold. And so the problem is that he can't do what Bo Nix can do. He can't move in the pocket like Bo Nix. Probably can't run like Bo Nix and make plays like Bo Nix. So, if we're going to be brutally honest, it's like, so it basically is what I call a caretaker QB. If you're relying on the Denver Broncos defense to do everything, I don't think that's going to work. So that changes everything. You don't get the matchup that I think anyone wanted, certainly not what I wanted. I wanted to see Denver and New England. But not this. So
right.
I think it doesn't bode well for Denver. I really think it doesn't. The defense would have to have an overwhelming game for them to win against New England. You'd have to have the defense do what they did to the Steelers, like that. They'd have to score, basically, or find opportunity to score. It's not going to be easy. So it's not good news for Denver. Again, I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was delivered when they won the game. They won the game. And then it was sometime afterwards that Denver's coach comes in and says, Bo Nix is not going to be in the championship. He's out for the season.
Right.
Or to remain in the season. You see, when you go online, you sometimes see people on X or Facebook or whatever put up these small little videos, verticals, like absolute cinema. Well, this seems like something out of a movie. It really does. If this were in a movie, you'd think that it was a screenwriter's plot point and his manipulation at work.
Yeah.
instead of what we get now. So I think it changes a lot. I think it changes a lot for Denver. I don't think they can rely purely offensively on winning this game
Hmm.
for next week.
Okay. What did you learn from Denver? Or, no, excuse me, what did you learn from New England after they demolished the Houston Texans?
Well, let me, and I'll probably do, and I'll do
Okay.
this with all the games, but let me just do what I call, I make the call. So I will look at their game against the Texans. One of the things that I want to state right out front, I've said this on this show and probably on my own show, which is the Wise Guy Show. But I've said the Texans are not are an overrated team. I've said that C.J. Stroud has gone backwards as a quarterback compared to his rookie year. In fact, I don't even think that's a good enough description of what C.J. Stroud is. C.J. Stroud is a mediocre quarterback.
Hmm.
I don't know why people don't want to say this. He's a mediocre quarterback at best. And this is a guy who, over his couple of years, has gone to the playoffs. He's played in the playoffs. A lot of quarterbacks who come in don't have that. But the reality is, the past couple of years, last year and this year, just haven't been good with him. And I also stated with the Texans, I said this before, the reason why this team started winning games and building itself back up again, allowing them to go to the playoffs, was Davis Mills. It's that when C.J. Stroud was injured, Davis Mills came in and he got this offense working. And he's the guy that really deserves the credit for helping to get this Texans team up and eventually to a winning season. Not C.J. Stroud. I mean, C.J. Stroud came in and, played to, I would like to say, the best of his ability, but his ability really isn't the best. So, but played well enough. But the reality is that, so the talk that you hear about this game is, well, should C.J. Stroud have been benched and Davis Mills put in? That just confirms and buttresses what I've been saying over the past few weeks and what I've said on this show and elsewhere. I've said Davis Mills is the guy that got this offense humming. And I said that C.J. Stroud is a middling at best quarterback who is performing poorly.
Hmm.
But not as poorly as he has in the playoffs. Now, when you look at the New England Patriots and when you look at this Texan team, the Texan team was overwhelmed by the Patriots. Forget the fact that Texans have a number one defense. I said this in my analysis last week about the Texans against the Steelers. I said, look at the offense. 3 turnovers that the Steelers got. That defense was going after Stroud. The difference was they couldn't capitalize on the turnovers. Had the Steelers been able to capitalize on the turnovers, they would have won this game, much like the Patriots won this game. And you look at that offense really wasn't ready to go. They did a better job in this game against the Patriots, strangely enough. Everyone's talking about, the 4 or 5 turnovers
Right.
that happened. But if you look at the offense for the Texans, they actually played better in this game than they did in the Pittsburgh Steelers game.
Right.
They were kind of sluggish because the Steelers defense was good. But they were actually better offensively in this game. And at one point, it was close enough. It was like 21-16, and it was close enough. They were down by 5 points or so.
Yeah.
And so it was a close enough game at one point. But the problem was they weren't going to win because, and I said this when the Steelers played the Chargers. Sorry, not Steelers played the Chargers. When the Patriots played the Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
What I said is the Patriots defense looks good. This this is a defense that wasn't great this year, and they've suddenly turned into a really fine defense. I mean, in that game they were getting sacks, not so much turnovers, but sacks. In this game they were getting turnovers, and it actually reminded me, strangely enough, and this is the irony, it's sort of like history repeating itself. Because in the 80s, when the New England Patriots, I believe, went to their first Super Bowl, when they were playing teams, they were getting massive turnover, which is part of the reason that they won games. They were forcing turnovers. They beat the Raiders, who were one of the better teams that year, and stunned them.
Yes.
And a very good team. This is the 86 or so.
80. 80. Super Bowl 30, it was the Bears and the Patriots, but the 85 Bears beat them. But yes.
Right. Well, the 85 Bears weren't going to lose to anybody else.
No.
The 85 Bears were looking a little like the 2025 Seahawks are right now, but I'll get to them later.
Yeah.
But you look at this. You look at the Patriots. They got turnovers, and they didn't even really force turnovers. They just took advantage of the turnovers. So, if you look at why the Texans lost, it's what I call "I make the call," which is kind of like you make the call commercial.
Yes.
To be on TV. So, you look at that first turnover by C.J. Stroud.
Yes.
He's under pressure. He's got a defender on him, and he just goes and throws this ball. Well, that ends up being tipped, and that gets an interception, running in for six points. Right. So that's one of the reasons that they lost is Stroud's lack of discipline in the passing game. Like, take the sack. Like, if you can make a throw, make the throw. But when you're taking a chance on a throw, you darn well better make sure that your receiver is able to hit, make sure that target is hit.
Right.
So that was the beginning, because of what you're seeing are that the throws aren't that good because they're being tipped. It says something about the receivers too. They're not in harmony with each other. Like they're not on the same accord.
Okay.
Because he's hitting, boom, it goes up. Patriots defender gets the ball and runs it in. Right? So that's one of the things right there. Like, don't make throws like that. Don't throw in that situation. That's one of the reasons that they lost. I think another reason why they lost that I could see, like when he threw the ball to Schultz, and Schultz ran for about 20 yards or more. That was a good play. Like I said, they had some good plays, and it was a little bit close at one point. But when you look at the way it is, it's the passing it's the passing. The errant passing. The passing seems a bit wild. One, because it's being tipped. Again, you're not on accord with the receivers. And you're making a throw while you're being hit. If you've got somebody close to you and you can get the ball off, great. But you're taking a chance when you make a throw like that.
Right. So
that's one of the big reasons that the Texans lost. I think another reason why the Texans lost. So right there, if we're talking about what caller made, again, I would have focused on yards after the catch. Get a play like you did with Schultz. Get them running so that they can pick up the extra yardage. I don't think there were enough plays like that.
So would you say that Houston fell short? Houston lost this game because their lack of yak attack.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay.
It's a good way to put it. But I would say also, if you look at the offense of the New England Patriots, you're looking at the fact that the throw to Boutte, I hope I'm getting his name correct. You're looking at Drake May's throw to Boutte for a touchdown. They made some good, May made some deep, good passes and was able to score effectively. I think they were able to get into the end zone effectively. Again, the thing about Drake May is he doesn't have to throw for 300, 400 yards for them to win. I think he has to throw enough that they're able to, and I think it's closer to complementary football, which is why that they won, the New England Patriots. And what I said before, I said that defense is good. I mean, it's turning into a really good defense with this New England Patriots. I don't think they were this good during the season, but now they're turning into a really good defense. And they got sacks in that game against the Chargers. They got turnovers in this game against the Texans. I have no idea what's going to happen in that game against Denver.
Okay.
So, you got to watch out for that defense. But, as for the controversy over whether he should have been benched or not, I would say if he's your marquee quarterback, your QB1, that you're stuck with him.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it in that regard. But yeah, you're looking at the quality of throws. I think he made a very poor throw for that first interception. And it was, I think, also in regards to why they lost that game in terms of the Texans. Part of the reason they lost that game, I think, was the fact that they ultimately could get in the end zone. They're settling for field goals, and that was okay, but they couldn't get in the end zone. Interceptions, of course, took away a lot of opportunities, but they weren't able to get into the end zone. And again, I've said this offense isn't effective for the Texans. I don't care how great their defense was. And again, this seems to be a pattern. You look at the Jaguars, good pass rush, really good defense, but they lost to the Bills. Texans, best defense supposedly in the NFL, but they lost to the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
If you have a really good defense and your defense isn't scoring, and they weren't scoring in this game, it's another reason that they won. They weren't getting turnovers. They weren't really getting turnovers, and they weren't converting turnovers into points. Big difference. They did that against the Steelers, the Texans did, and that's how they won. That's basically why they won that game. They had 2 turnovers, which they converted for touchdowns in that game. They didn't do that here. They didn't do that in the game against the Patriots. So,
how real is this Patriots run? Like, are the Patriots legit? Is this the beginning seeds of a Super Bowl champion? Should we? Are we 2007 Patriots again, or is this just a one and done? You think?
In regards to longevity, you'll have to wait till next season. They'll know whether it's going to be longevity with this team. But right now, when you're looking at this team, they seem to be exponentially improving from, if not game to game, then so many games. Like I said, this defense has gotten much better. And this defense is no joke. Now, everybody talked about the Texans and the number 1 defense. I saw what that New England defense did to the Chargers.
Yeah.
And I went, whoa, these guys are for real.
Yeah.
So, with that defense, they got a shot. Everyone's talked about Drake May in the offense, but nobody's really talked about this defense. And part of the reason they won, complementary football. Defense gets turnovers, offense is able to score and get them in the end zone. And so, I honestly believe this New England Patriots, this team, right now they can go all the way. They can go to the Super Bowl. There's no doubt about that.
One thing Mike Vrabel needs to bring to the table to get his team to the Super Bowl.
What he needs to make sure the offensive line's protecting Drake May effectively. Can't you? I mean, if they're gonna go up against Denver next week, or should I say this week? This upcoming
Sunday.
It would be next week. It's Sunday.
Sunday.
Next week. So the one thing I would say is the offensive line. That offensive line is going to have to be in overtime because of Denver's defense. But even Denver's defense really couldn't stop Josh Allen.
Yeah. Okay. I want to talk about Seattle for a moment here. When you watch Seattle dominate like they did against a talented 49ers team, a division foe, and when you watch them dominate like that, you've been on, I wouldn't say the Seattle bandwagon, but you've been hyping this Seattle team up. What are fans just now beginning to see about this Seattle team that you've seen for the past 7 or 8 weeks?
Number one, how good their defense is. Their defense is outstanding. Everyone talks about the Texans. Everyone talked about other defenses, little about the Jaguars, Seahawks defense. They played the Cardinals and the defense scored 2 touchdowns. Scored 2 touchdowns. I mean, I've said Rams, Seattle, best teams in the NFC. Chicago's close. But the Seahawks, I just look at this team. Everything is working. The gears are just meshing. You look at Darnold. He isn't breaking. He isn't returning to his old form, which is maybe unsure, slightly unsure, ineffective. He's effective all season. Part of it, I think, is the fact that this team just seems to be well integrated. It seems to be, again, complementary football. You look at Seattle, their defense plays well enough that their offense can, when they put points on the board, they can maintain that. They did it against the 49ers earlier in the year earlier last year, 13-3 in that game. Now it was like 41-6. They let them have one other field goal. I look at this Seahawks team, and I mentioned Chicago Bears 85 team, and their defense. Their defense reminds me a little of that team. This defense is, and this team can score. I know they've lost, I think, Charbonnet. He won't be.
Yeah, he's out. He's out for the rest of the playoffs, torn ACL there. You think that'll be a big impact?
Well, the guy who was really tearing it up in that game wasn't Charbonnet. He had a good game. It was Walker. He had over 100 yards. If he were injured, I think it'd be a big problem. So it's a factor because you don't have another utility back. So I don't know who they're going to bring up to play in that game. It helps when you have 2 good backs like that. So I think, you may lose something. You may lose a little something when you don't have another talented running back that you can sort of share the load with in regards to yardage. But that having been said, the main guy was Walker.
Okay.
And he's still healthy from what I understand.
Yes. So
he's probably going to be the main driver rushing-wise for that team when they play the Rams. Now, getting to the game itself and why they won, there isn't a lot of, I make the call. There isn't a lot I could say specifically, how the 49ers lost. You could argue they lost from the very beginning with, excuse me. You could say the 49ers lost at the very beginning with that run back.
Yeah.
For a touchdown.
Yep.
And outside that, there was a player that tried to trip him. try to trip the Seahawks return guy. And I pretty much knew then something was. I mean, that to me is weird. I don't know if anyone's kind of mentioned that, but I don't think I've ever seen anybody try to trip someone that blatantly in a long time in the NFL.
I haven't seen it in a while.
It's interesting. I mean, I would probably cite that in terms of you make the call. Your special teams let you down, and I would say if their special teams perhaps had stopped that maybe at the 30, earlier maybe at the 30, 35 or so, and they'd been able to stop that. I don't know that the 49ers would have won, but it would have. They would have put. I think they would have put them in a better position. The Seahawks might have still got a touchdown, but you wouldn't be down by 7 points. I think it was like a cascade effect. It's sort of like that 49ers, the 94 game, I think it was the NFC Championship between the 49ers and Dallas Cowboys, where for like 7 minutes, the 49ers just scored on Dallas due to turnovers. And they were up 21-0. It felt like that kind of game here. Of course, Dallas came back and made it a game, but the 49ers weren't able to do that in this game. So if I go with that, I think your special teams had to find a way to stop, I think it was Rashid, from making that long return play. That might have helped. But there's not too much I could say. I think the defense really just wasn't, 49ers defense wasn't able to stop Seattle, as they were able to do with the Eagles. Tackling was really good when the 49ers played the Eagles. They just weren't able to slow this team down. This team was just too fast and too focused and effective for the 49ers to stop.
Okay. Let's talk about Sunday night for a moment. I'm going to read a quote from myself that I said after this was me, my reaction to Caleb Williams' throw that sent the game into overtime. I said, well, I've seen many touchdown plays, but what Caleb Williams just did has topped them all. Your thoughts?
I consider that the best pass play of the playoffs.
Okay.
And it's also probably one of the best pass plays, probably the best pure plays of the season. No question. Now,
sadly, didn't mean to cut you off there. Sadly, it goes down in the playbook or the record books as a 15-yard touchdown pass. I will not remember it that way, nor will you. I had him at the 45 when he threw the ball. So just, yeah.
Well, I would argue the reason he was able to do that, and here's the interesting thing, getting into analysis again. Notice that unlike quarterbacks that normally are under pressure, what Caleb Williams did was he went backwards. He wasn't running. I would argue he wasn't, the defenders were coming at him. They were converging on him, and he went back. And I think that allowed, and this is why I think he was able to make that play, he was able to throw because he's not simply reading, the immediate field, but he's reading the field downward, way down. And he could see, I think it was Komet who got the ball. I can't remember who got the ball. But he can see that, and then he goes and he throws. And I think it was his ability to go backwards. I think had he, as he sometimes has done, and had he moved on one side or the other, he might have thrown that ball. But I don't think it would have been as effective. I think the fact that he, excuse me, I think the fact that he went backwards and he kept going backwards gave him the time and opportunity. I think it was also kind of a move to give himself time.
Yeah.
Well, it was obvious to give himself time. But notice he's going backwards. And as he's going backwards, sees it and makes the throw. And I think he's able to do that because he was going backwards. He wasn't going sideways. He wasn't running around.
Right.
He was able to directly walk backwards. I think that's why he was able to make that great throw. As for the game itself, I'm sure, like with the Bills-Broncos game, which I will talk about after this in doing my analysis, when I look at this game, the play calling for the Rams, this was actually the kind of playoff game I like. It's my ideal playoff game. Even scoring, for the most part, maybe you're up by a touchdown. The people are scoring touchdowns, even scoring, ties, enough lead changes. And I would say on the part of the Rams, their play calling was lousy. And I know that I know their coach. I know McVay came in, said he was, took responsibility for that. I give him credit for that because the play calling was lousy. I was surprised. I mean, the first thing was the Bears' defense was really good in this game. They stopped the Rams at times, and because the Rams were going with running plays, and I understand the running. Sometimes I understand running plays, but I'm going. First of all, you got very cold conditions here, and it's okay if you want to run in cold conditions, but I'm going. You got to understand if you're running the ball. The Bears were just hit to it and stopped them cold. That's one of the reasons that when they went to overtime, Chicago was able to get the ball back, was they were able to stop them.
Yeah.
And the Bears defense was like that. They were able to shut down the Rams for the most part. The Rams' initial game plan was pretty good in that they were methodical heading down the field. So it's not that they played poorly necessarily, but a number of the play calls, again, it's what I've said before when I did my analysis here. Plays from your pocket, hit pocket plays. I look at the Rams and go, what were you guys thinking? They actually should have lost this game. I'll be brutally honest. Although they played a good game, the Rams did. They should have lost this game. They should have really lost this game. Now, let me address, because I look at some of the moves they made, going with the run, going with the ball, and they were just stopped. Now, let me, first of all, get to the Chicago Bears and why they lost the game. Now, it seems obvious. The reason why, again, first of all, Caleb Williams had thrown a couple interceptions earlier. The problem with Caleb's throw in overtime, number one, and I'll get to this with the Bills-Broncos as well, you got the ball in overtime. All you need to do is bleed the clock. This is why I say time management is important, especially in the playoffs. All you need to do at this point, since you stopped the Rams and you got the ball, you need to head down the field, bleed the clock, and kick a field goal. I mean, if you want to go for a touchdown, fine, but I would say head down the field. What Caleb Williams should have done on the play that he got intercepted with in overtime is he should have picked up the first down. That's all you need to do because you're near midfield. Pick up the first down and keep the series going.
Yeah.
You don't need to throw, I think it was in the safety position. You don't need to throw, I think it was the DJ Moore. You don't need to throw that ball down there.
Right.
You don't need to. It's unnecessary. You know why it's unnecessary? Because you're not in a position where you have to throw. Like when he made the throw in regulation, that made sense. Because if you don't make that throw, you don't win. Or you don't put yourself in a position to win. That throw made sense. The throw in overtime made absolutely no sense. Why? Because you don't need it. You're trying to be a hero, and you're trying to go down, so that puts you in a position possibly for a touchdown, but more importantly for a field goal at that point. What you need to do is to be steady and methodical. Run the clock down. In fact, they probably should have run the ball on that series. It's a run. Because remember, you have to remember that they have the ball, they're picking up. And with both teams, both the Rams and the Bears, they basically were about picking up first downs. If you look at this game, it's very steady, methodical. Pick up this first down, pick up that first down, pick up that first down. The plays just don't work when you're throwing. It didn't work for Stafford when he was trying to throw to his receiver in this game as well on a pass, and it missed. So go with the steady approach. The Bears didn't do that. And again, you have pocket plays from your pocket. If you had you take a chance with running the ball, but at the very least, pick up the first down. Now, if you got intercepted trying to pick up the first down, okay. I think that would have been at least acceptable. Okay. I understand you're trying to beat the clock. So long as it's not a bad throw. In that interception, what you notice is Caleb Williams is looking down the field. So there's all this talk about him and his receiver not being on the same page, right? He's throwing the route.
Right.
So in other words, Caleb Williams is looking. He's throwing there. Notice the Rams defender had to fly to get that ball.
Right.
Had he not gotten there, that ball would have fallen to the ground. That Rams defender had to run and jump to get that ball.
Yeah.
So he's throwing to the route, and the receiver wasn't there at the route. So he's throwing the route. So again, you don't need that play. Pick up the first down and and again, either get a run play or you do a play because you're near midfield. Just pick up that first down. That's all you need to do. But again, you're trying to play hero and you're trying to go farther than you need. Again, Caleb Williams threw 2 interceptions in regulation. And so you would think that I don't know, maybe he didn't have that in mind, but you would kind of be careful with the ball after you realize you're in overtime and you want to give the ball back. All they needed to do was pick up the first down. They didn't do that. So if I were making the call, pick up the first down. Get a receiver out to the first down marker, pick that up, head down, so you could eventually get within field goal range and kick it.
Right.
And that's really why they lost. Now,
let me ask. Go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask you a question. Why not go for 2?
That's precisely. Glad you mentioned that. That's what's come up also. And they went for the deep pass. They got the touchdown. Why not go for 2?
Ball game.
The impression that I get is that here's why I think they didn't go for 2. Prior, when the Rams were leading by 7 up on the Bears, they had driven down to the red zone. And Caleb Williams had thrown a ball to his receiver, and it got deflected, knocked out. So they weren't able to pick up a touchdown that way. I get the feeling that they didn't want to take a chance. Ben Johnson didn't want to take a chance, and I guess his coaches and whomever didn't want to take a chance on that. Right. Because you tried that, you tried to get it.
And this is supposedly the best darn play caller in the league, by the way, Ben Johnson.
Right, that's correct. But once you get to that position, the impression I get of the Bears is this. This is a team that's kind of built for, and Taylor Williams himself has said this, and I agree with it. There's 60 minutes of football. They're kind of built to keep going.
Right.
So if they're built to keep going and they're confident enough to say, look, we'll go to overtime and we'll win this, take the chance. It gives you a chance to do it. I don't think there's anything wrong with what Ben Johnson and the team did. They didn't want to take a chance. I think had they not made it, that would have been just as controversial. Yeah. I don't care what anyone would have said. He would have said, well, how come you go for two? Just go to overtime. And I think it was the right call on Ben Johnson's part. You give yourself an opportunity. If you can't win outright, do it. 2 points are always risky.
Yeah.
And you're in a playoff situation. You don't know if you're going to make it. Again, you have to keep that play in mind. They 17-10, they've driven to the end zone. They can't get that touchdown. So I think maybe that had an effect. I think it had to have an effect on that. They were like, we're not taking a chance on that. The Rams will be waiting for that. And I think rightly so. And they made the extra point, and they went into overtime. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong.
Okay. I went out of sequence. I apologize. We'll go back to that AFC game between the Bills and the Broncos. What went wrong for the Bills?
Excellent question. Here's what went wrong for the Bills. What went wrong for the Bills, let's get this out of the way. You could argue the calls went wrong for them. And I have to be brutally honest about the latter calls. Those are pass interference calls.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Bills fans. Those are bad pass interference calls. The last call in particular, the receiver's looking to get the ball and the defender reaches up and grabs onto the arm. You can't inhibit the receiver when he's trying to get the ball. Can't do it. You cannot do it. I mean, had he just been going for the ball, maybe they would have had a chance. But, the Bills defenders gave the game away to Buffalo in overtime. Now, you could also look at the interception, right? There was a pass by Josh Allen to his receiver. He gets the ball, he comes down, he rolls, and then Denver defender has the ball. So the question is, was that a catch? Or was it an interception? It's almost like the Dez Bryant controversy years ago at Green Bay and Dallas. So you got another catch situation that's going to be. They'll be talking about this one for years. I can already tell you. They'll already be talking about this one for years. So it's always, I believe, according to the rules, it's always whether he has possession of the ball.
Yes.
Does the receiver have possession of the ball going down? And it appears he has possession going down.
Right. The ground cannot cause a fumble.
Right. The tricky part is that he rolls over and the ball is now apparently out.
Yeah. So
the question is, at what, I think you have to define at what part is that a catch and what part of it isn't.
Right.
If he got it, came down to the ground, and now you have somebody grabbing the ball away from him as he rolls over. So I would have to say that's a very hard one, because he technically had a catch, but it appeared to be grabbed away from him.
Right.
So if he came down to the ground, I would assume that he had the ball. I guess if he does it hold on to it. I guess the fact that he rolled, and then the ball was ripped from him caused that to be ruled interception.
Yeah.
So you have those questionable calls, right? But here's let's go getting to I make the call. Here's the problem for the Bills in terms of the Broncos. The problem is in regulation. And the problem in regulation is that Josh Allen decides with 17, Denver, Bo Nix throws a touchdown, I think, to Mims, and the Bills are heading down. And what happens is that instead of, they're heading down and it's I think it's 17 seconds. And so what Josh Allen should have done, I don't know how people will agree with me, but what he should have done is he should have picked up the first down. What he did was try to throw to, I think it was Knox. And so that ball sails off. So he wasted a play. Now, you have to understand, and the reason I say this is when they made the kick, which they're forced to do, because it's now fourth, and tied it up and going into overtime, they had 10 seconds on the clock.
Right.
And I'm going, when I look back at that, I went, that's not a lot of time in aggregate.
But it's enough.
That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
Precisely. It's enough. So all they needed to do, I look at it this way. What Josh Allen should have done, again, I go with hit pocket plays, right? What you should have done is pick up the first down.
Yep.
You pick up the first down, get out of bounds. Then you can maybe run one play. Maybe you go for a touchdown. If you don't, maybe you get it down to about 3 or 4 seconds. Then you make the kick.
Yeah.
But instead, Josh Allen wasted a play. He wasted it down, throwing the ball to a receiver who wasn't really on the same book with him. Kind of like DJ Moore and Caleb Williams.
Right.
Like, they're not on the same bandwidth. They're not on the same radio wave frequency. Not on the same frequency. So you wasted that. All you need to do is get a first down. Now, you may get the kick. Now, here's the thing. You may have to kick. But what you do is, if you play it right, you go and you get out of bounds. You hit a receiver near the fourth. Get to the fourth. Get him on the first down. Get him out of bounds. And then it gives you another play. And it gives you the option for that. So that if you have to kick, you have to kick. You don't use the time. That's why I cited the 10 seconds.
Yeah.
You had still had time to do something, and you didn't do it. Now, if you look at that game, what happened when the Denver Broncos wound up with an interception near the end of the first half? They were down a few seconds. They get it. They're near the sideline, down 2 seconds. Now, they're already leading by 7.
Right.
But they go and kick a field goal. 10-point lead. Why do I bring that up? Denver maximized the time they had.
Yeah.
2 seconds. If they had 10 seconds, they probably would have gone for a touchdown.
Right.
But they maximized the time they had. The Bills had 17 seconds that play, and they kicked with 10 seconds on the clock. They didn't maximize the time that they had. And I think that's, in the end, part of the reason they lost.
Yeah. Want to look forward to next Sunday. You're seeing the Broncos team that is going to take the field on Sunday is not the Broncos team that we saw on Saturday. What does this Broncos team need to do to beat a very talented New England team?
Their backfield has to be good. Because I think Drake May is going to be making plays. He's going to be throwing. If I were Drake May, or if I were coaching Drake May, I'd be trying to get him to throw midfield to deep. Okay. Because the strength of the Denver defense is the pass rush. So I would be getting, and their backfield is not great. It's a good, very good defense, but it's not a great backfield. So I would be looking to get him midfield to deep.
Is this
passes like that?
Do you think this is a trap game for New England, given the circumstances?
In what way do you think this is a trap game?
Bo Nix is out. He's the centerpiece. Their offense is going to be off balance, not well prepared, so our defense can go in there, and then we just have to do what we can do. But I get it. Maybe since it's the AFC Championship game, you're still going through not routine checks, but you're doing your playoff checks at this point. But because it is I don't want to say depleted team, but it is not a full 100% capacity, you kind of think, we got this one in the bag, check mark.
Interesting note there about a trap game. I look at this New England Patriot team. The difference has been the defense in the playoffs.
And that defense is now going up against a quarterback that is not
a quarterback that hasn't played since 2023.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, the difference for the Patriots and people, I don't know if people are really talking this as much. Maybe they are, but it's been the defense for the New England Patriots. And that defense has to have a good game. I think if that defense has a bad game against Denver, then they might lose. I think everybody thinks the key is Drake May. It isn't.
Right.
The key is the defense. Drake May has done what he needs to do to help his team win. And so he's been effective that way. I think, and he's not, he doesn't have to go and make the mistakes. He doesn't have to go and make the crazy plays and have to make errant throws. He can get them down the field and he can get them into the end zone. So, again, what's been said about Drake May is, he doesn't throw for over 300 yards in games, but he doesn't really need to. Again, he can throw for 200 yards and it'll be effective. And I think it's been effective in general in these playoffs because of that defense. Again, the defense of the New England Patriots is no joke. People seem to be ignoring it. I wouldn't ignore it. If that offensive line of the Denver Broncos, is it playing well and they're not able to stop the Patriots? Game over.
Yeah. I just think that Patriots defense is going to be too much for Jared Stidham. I think it's gonna be too much. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Your thoughts?
I would say that I agree. I mean, I'm looking at what I see with them in these games, and they don't even need to put up, like in the first game against the Chargers, they had a good pass rush. Against the Texans, it wasn't the pass rush. It was more the defense, being able to get the deflected balls and being able to pick up interceptions and being able to play the sort of the light backfield, play shallow and then in the backfield. And I don't know what else this defense is going to be able to do, but again, what they have to do is put pressure on Jared Stidham like you wouldn't believe. You may have to go with a couple of blitzes at times. Not too many, but you might have to go with some blitzes. Because I would say you need to put pressure on him. The pass rush has to be better in this game. Not that it was bad against the Texans, but I don't think they needed as much of a pass rush against the Texans.
Okay.
But they will need it against Denver.
Okay. Let's switch to the NFC. When you look at Rams Seahawks episode 3, they played 2 great games in the regular season. This will be their 3rd meeting of the season. What stands out to you?
Well, I think what's going to be interesting to me is the Rams defense just really hasn't. I mean, they were better in the game against Chicago because they got interceptions, so you got to give them credit for that. I think the question to me with that team is, what can the Rams defense do in this game? I think if the Rams are going to have a shot at winning this game, their defense is going to have a great game.
Okay.
I mean, they're really going to have to come up. I thought they were lousy in the game against Carolina, and that Stafford had to bail them out. And I think they were okay against the Bears. I think the Bears had a far better defense, and they stopped the Rams at times. So, I would say that, I think when you look at the Bears and, the Rams, they're going to have to put up some kind of pass rush against Darnold. They're going to have to come after him. And more importantly, their backfield is going to have to play pretty well. And they're going to have to find a way to stop the run, because I think they're going to run the ball. They're going to try to run the ball. At least I would think you would run the ball. I would say against Seattle, the Rams need to run the ball. Just switching it briefly to the offensive side. They need to run the ball against them. Because, when you look at what Walker did last week, you got Williams and you've got Corum. I think you need. I think you have to get a running game going for the Rams to have a shot, and I think that defense really has to have a good game. I really think the Rams have skated by. They've been fortunate. I said the Bears were the luckiest team in the NFL. I think at the playoffs, it's the LA Rams. I think they just weren't very good against the Panthers, but they got stopped by the Bears at times and managed to get the turnover and to enable them to hit down the field and win. So the Rams can't do that. I don't think if the Rams aren't able to get a pass rush against Sam Darnold, the only way I think they got a shot is you've got to turn Sam Darnold. You got to prevent Sam Darnold from being Sam Darnold in 2025. You got to turn him into Sam Darnold in 2024.
Okay.
That's the only way they're going to have a shot at winning in Seattle.
Okay. Well, let's. With that said, let's get your predictions. We'll start with the AFC Championship game. That is at 3:30 on CBS. Denver taking on New England in Denver there. Or excuse me, no. Is it in Denver? No. I'm sorry. I'm second guessing myself here. I don't want to say wrong things. Okay, I had it right. No, I had it right the first time. Yeah, 3 o'clock on CBS. Patriots and the Broncos at Mile High.
Well, it will be warm and sunny, and hopefully nothing funny. And I would say I would have to go with New England.
Okay.
It's not so much because of Bo Nix isn't playing, although I think Bo Nix does give them a better shot at winning. I think it's because if you look at this Denver team, they barely won against the Bills. Yeah, they played a pretty good game, but they barely won against Buffalo. It was a very tough game. I think and it was a very hard. I think it was a hard game on, not just because they lost Bo Nix, but because it's such a down to the wire, close, back and forth contest. And New England would be coming in, I think, with the defense that is really ready to play. I mean, this defense has just gotten far better than they were in the season. I don't think they were this good this season. And with that, you know, I think unless Garrett Stidham somehow surprises everyone and turns in a Peyton Manning type performance, or even Eli Manning type performance, I'd say I have to go with the New England Patriots.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, since I mentioned this on the other show, I guess I was 3-1 for the divisional round.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
That matters.
No, it's all fun and games.
So let me repeat that. I would, when it comes to Denver and New England for the AFC Championship, I pick New England.
Okay.
New England.
Perfect. 6:30 on Fox. Rams, Seahawks, Lumen Field in Seattle.
I think you've had two, if not good games, then great games. The second was a great game. To me, that was a playoff game. I wish that had been the playoff game. I'll be brutally honest. I wish the Rams Seahawks game they played had been the playoff game because it felt like it. The Rams defense has to have a great day. They've gotta make something happen. I can't see them. It's not just because of what they did to the 49ers. This Seahawks team is firing on all cylinders. They don't have a lot of weaknesses. And granted, the Rams can play them well. So that's an advantage. But the Rams defense, they've got to be able to get a pass rush to Darnold. They've got to be able to stop the run. And they've got to be able, and the offense has to run the ball. You got to get Williams going. You got to get Corum going. And if I guess Puka Nacua is fired up, he can make some receptions. But I would say the Seahawks team will be too much. I'm going to pick Seattle over the Rams. Although this one could go down to the wire. This could go down. If the Rams' defense is really good and the Rams play a really good game, they could go down to the wire.
Okay. So he's got the Patriots and the Seahawks. A rematch of Super Bowl 49.
And I think that would make for a very good Super Bowl. Yeah. That would make for a very good. Yes. The Malcolm Butler Super Bowl. As I call it. And that would make for a really interesting Super Bowl. Again, I look at the matchups. Now, I think if it were Rams-Denver, it might be, because Bo Nix isn't in there, it just won't work. Won't be as good a matchup. If Bo Nix were in, it'd be a good matchup. But he's not in, so it would be a good matchup. New England, Seattle at this point, good matchup. And it would be a good matchup because of those defenses. Because I'm thinking, what would happen? I don't think it would I don't think Seattle would automatically run roughshod over New England, but we'll see what happens.
Where we go to listen to the Wise Guys show?
Wise Guys show can be listened to and seen at my channel, Ryder Albert Lanier. That's at Ryder Albert Lanier 3434. At Ryder Albert Lanier 3434. Only on YouTube. You can check out the Wise Guys show. Not too many episodes going to be left. I think I'm doing one more, I think, possibly, until Super Bowl. I don't know if I'm going to do a Super Bowl show. Maybe. We'll see.
Okay. Well, we can confirm that Albert Lanier is going to be with us for our big Super weekend show. I believe, I think Friday is the day that I'm being told, right before the opening ceremonies of the 25th Winter Olympic Games. We'll have a quick football segment, so it'll be a fun time. And of course, next Monday, to recap NFC Championship Sunday, and then all in all there. So looking forward to what you have, looking forward to our conversation next week.